Hey, welcome back to the Live the Life podcast. I am your host, Eric Aroca. Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I really can't start my day off correctly if I don't have a Coke Zero. So, here's to y'all. That just soothes the soul, if you know what I'm saying. Um, I have been watching the NBA playoffs. And I will admit, I am not a very big NBA fan. I would say, over the last 5 to 6 years, I've done everything possible to kind of steer away from the NBA. I don't like necessarily how woke they've become and that kind of crap. So I just lost interest. Football is king anyway. And so there's that. But I will say, I have to admit, Sophie, I have really enjoyed watching the NBA playoffs. My horse is not in the race, that being the Chicago Bulls. It'll probably be a while before they're involved in any kind of, serious NBA championship hunt. So, but anyway, I've enjoyed it. My favorite player is still in the game. So my favorite player is the Ant-Man, and I just love him. He is so great. Plays from Minnesota, and I'm not a huge T-Wolves fan, but I am a huge fan of the Ant-Man, and so I'm kind of if I would have to say that if I'm rooting for anyone to win, probably Minnesota. Although I really can't stand Rudy Gobert. I don't know. Don't even get me started. I probably shouldn't even go down that road. So anyway, if you haven't been watching, go check it out. It's pretty competitive. The games have been incredible. I mean, the Indiana Pacers in New York series has been so fun. Like, every single game has kind of come down to the wire, except for the 2 games ago where Minnesota. Well, no, that was Minnesota. Never mind. All the games have been close. So go check it out. And if not, hey, your life will go on just fine without it. So there's that. And then on a sad note, Manchester United sucks. And it pains my heart and brings tears to my eyes to say that they suck. But let me just tell you, they are the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked. I mean, they are freaking horrible. But at least the season is over. Thank goodness. Don't have to watch that train wreck again. And hopefully we get rid of the bad apples on the squad. And we can move forward, bring new players in, bring in players who will live the culture of Man United so that we can get back to winning ways. And just, I don't know. I can't go through another season like that. We finished 16th, I think, on the table, 16th. 18, 19, and 20 get relegated to a lower division, so that they do have relegation. So we were like this close to being relegated, right? I mean, if we have another season like we had this year, we will be relegated, no doubt. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Hopefully they can fix it, but I don't know. We'll talk about that next week a little bit more when we talk about kind of the bad apples and what do we do with the bad apples, not only on teams but in our work environment, in the places where we work. What do we do with people who have bad mojo and bad attitude and bad what do we do with those people? So we'll talk a little bit about that next week. But this week, really wanted to kind of dive in a little bit on building winning culture. Now, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, which is just Eric Aroca, you will see my latest post where I talked a little bit about building a winning culture, and it was really about building a winning classroom culture. But the principles that I talked about in that post certainly apply to any work environment, because we're again talking about principles, and the three pillars of building a winning culture are leadership, communicating to connect, and last of all, core values. And so those apply across any industry that you could even think about. So when we think about building organizational culture, that's where we start. We start with those three pillars. So let's dive in a little bit. And I want to share with you a little bit about my experience this past year, since school is over, that I had in substitute teaching. Now, I'm going to go from worst to best. Or should I go from best to worst?
Worst to best.
Worst to best. Sophie has spoken. From worst to best, I will tell you right now that as a substitute, now my opinion on this will change if I was a regular teacher, if I was a day in, day out teacher. But I'm going at this from the standpoint of my experience as a substitute and share with you what I saw when it comes to culture. So, what I saw from the very worst was middle school. That's sixth grade. Sixth grade. Here in Texas, we do elementary from pre-K through fifth. Sixth is middle school. Seventh and eighth is junior high, correct, Sophie? Seventh and eighth is junior high, and then high school, kind of the traditional ninth through 12. So those sixth graders, oh my gosh. That was the worst experience of my life. I did it, I think, 3 times, because the first time I was in such shock that kids could behave in that manner that I had to go back and do it again. And I did it at a different school because I thought, okay, maybe it's different at another middle school. So I went to a different school, and believe it or not, it got worse. So then I went back to the first middle school where I had subbed, and did a totally different teacher, totally different class, what have you, and the experience was worse yet. I promised myself after that third time that I would never again go back and sub at a middle school. Those kids are completely out of control. Now, I say that, but in some regards, I don't blame the kids. Kids are kids. Sixth graders were sixth graders in 1987. Sixth graders are sixth graders today. And you may be thinking, well, thanks, Captain Obvious. But they are. I mean, kids are always going to push the envelope. They're always going to push boundaries. It's not up to the kids. It's not even up to the parents. It's up to the teachers in the classroom. You have to be able to provide leadership. You have to provide leadership. Look, I had some classes because when you go in there and sub, you're in there from periods 1 through 7, I believe, periods 1 through 7. Or it might be periods 1 through 5, because I think that the classes are a little bit longer. So it might have been 1 through 5. And, oh, man. And I'll tell you, maybe 3 out of the 5 were bearable. 3 out of the 5 were okay. Everything's okay. But oh, those 2 periods where the kids are just, they, I mean, they run the place, was a horrible experience. So I believe, as a past teacher, that it starts with the teachers. And I'll even give the teachers a little bit of a break on this one. It actually starts with the administration. That's where it starts. It's got to start with the administration. I saw a lot of, I don't want to say bullying in the hallways, but I would say I saw a whole lot of yelling from adults at 6th grade kids to try to get them to do what they wanted them to do. Like yelling, like top of the lungs, like yelling at kids. I'm sorry. Your culture will dictate how your people will behave. Your values will dictate how your people behave. I firmly believe that. And you're obviously showing by your actions, by the way that as an adult, by the way that as an administrator that you're behaving, that you tolerate yelling in the classroom, that you tolerate chaos in the classroom, because you're showing it. You're saying one thing, but you're doing another. So, I don't know. That's where I think it starts. It's leadership in the classroom. Because I could get kids to settle down by just instilling leadership in their classroom. I would often ask the kids, I would say, hey, you guys, this is your assignment. Take out your packet. This is your assignment. And then I would ask them, so how many points is this packet worth? Like what? Tell me a little bit about this assignment that you guys are working on. And they would always come back and say the same thing. Well, this doesn't even go towards our grade. These are just notes. This is just a notes packet. And I'm thinking, how often do you guys do this? And they say, we do this every day. Sophie's over there going like, they're choking herself because she experienced this too. So they basically get handed a packet weekly, probably. It's weekly. And then they come into class for however long they're there, 50 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever the duration is. And that's what they work on. That's what they do. They got to fill out the packet. Where does the teaching take place? Because I would ask these kids, so you do this every single day? And they say, yeah. And I said, how often do you guys have a conversation about what you're learning? How often do you guys, have that discussion or do something else? And they say, never. This is what we do. That does not constitute an environment for teaching. So I want to give teachers a little bit of a break, but then I also don't want to give them a break because that's not teaching. That's giving up. And if you've given up, then the kids are going to take a cue from you. They're going to take a cue from you. If you're lazy, if you're a lazy teacher, I had a teacher tell me in the first 5 minutes of me ever meeting this teacher, because they were giving me the rundown of what was going on. That teacher was actually coming back midday. So I was doing a half-day assignment. And he was basically just giving me the rundown. This is what every period is doing. And it was just all of it was a packet, by the way. And then he was coming back midday. So this is what he said to me in the first 5 minutes of me ever meeting him. He pointed out, 3rd and 4th period are lazy. They are lazy students. 1st and 2nd period are kind of my troublemakers. So notice what this teacher is saying, okay, about the people he is supposed to be leading, that he is supposed to be teaching. He kept going by letting me know that he was a lazy teacher. He said, I'm a little bit of a lazy teacher. And I'll tell you, I have to completely 100% agree with him, because the classroom was, I don't want to say dirty, but it was dirty. It was unkept. It was messy. It was stacks of literally just junk or papers that have been there for I don't know how long, just kind of stacked everywhere. His sitting area at his desk was just gross. Like, I felt like I needed a tetanus shot to sit there at the desk. And I told him, I just said, well, if you're saying that you're a lazy teacher, then what do you think the outcome will be for your kids, for your students? So if you're telling me that you're lazy, what makes you think that they won't be lazy? If you've already labeled them as troublemakers, well, you're giving them a license. You're giving them the freedom to act in that way. They're going to behave like troublemakers. They are going to be lazy. They're taking a cue from your leadership. It doesn't have to be this way, but you're the one who's setting the standard. This is your classroom. You are the leader. You have to lead from the front. He sat there. I mean, didn't sit there. He stood there just in kind of awe. And he was, well, what does that look like? And so we talked about what that looks like. And hey, can you give me some help with that? And I'm like, sure, here's my number. You call me. Guess who has not called? I don't expect a phone call anytime soon. Those kids took the example from that teacher. So that's kind of where we are in the middle school. I saw that in every single class. You could hear it on the class next door. Didn't have to have a substitute in the class. Even if you had a normal teacher, it was just chaotic. Everything that happened in the hallways was just chaotic. And I was just like, what in the world? How do kids come to school in this type of environment? I thought crap was crazy in the 80s. Forget that. This was like out of control. Like just out of control. Okay. So, second worst. Can you guys guess what second worst is? Junior high. These little sixth graders acting the way that they're acting and behaving the way that they're behaving, they just take it with them to 7th and 8th grade. Because in my experience so far, in the different junior highs, and I went to like three different junior highs as well. Nothing's changed. Nothing changes. They just progressively get worse. Okay? Progressively worse. So, again, I encountered very similar things. I can pretty much tell as a substitute what your core values are. What the core values are of that classroom. And it's by the way that they behave and the way that they treat me as a substitute. Sometimes kids were very disrespectful. At times just uncontrollable. They're just out of control. That tells me a lot about the teachers there. It tells me a lot about the core values of the classroom. What does the classroom believe in? It tells me a lot. So I think that it's doable. I actually do believe that if I was in that environment, whether it be middle school or junior high, if I was in that environment every day as a regular teacher, I I'm just going to say it. I know for a fact that I would not have a single problem with any of those students there. Fact. Because I'm not putting up with it. I'm just not. I'm not waiting for administration to help me to step in. I'm not putting up with it. I'm putting a stop to it from day one. And I'm going to hold every single student accountable just the way I'm going to hold myself accountable as a teacher. I'm going to do my job. I am going to teach your students. I am going to teach them, not just throw a packet in their face and say, fill this out by the end of the week. Oh, and by the way, that packet at the end of the week, that's what you study that's what you use for your study notes, for your quizzes and your tests. And then what do the kids do if they would always say, well, the information that we were tested on wasn't even in the packet? So then what the hell are we doing? Like, what the hell are we doing as teachers if we are giving these students busy work, and then in the end we're not even testing them on what we actually gave them to do? I don't understand. We had trick questions, which was incredibly asinine. Now they don't even do trick questions. They just give you totally new questions that you didn't even freaking study for. Sophie is over there going, yep, that's and it's not just Sophie telling me this. I heard this from student after student after student after student. Hey, after a while, where there's smoke, there is fire. If it was just one or two students telling me this, then I would be like, okay, you know what? They're exaggerating. I mean, they're overplaying this, what have you. But they're not. I heard this from time after time after time after time from student after student after student. So what the hell are we doing? I have no idea. I have no idea what is up with that. I just think that's crazy. All right. Third hardest. You guys know where I'm going with this, right? You know where I'm going with this, Sophie? Third hardest, high school. High school was the third hardest. Something happens in high school. I think that when they get to ninth grade, they still want to misbehave, and they do for some of them do, but they're pretty good about it if you call them on it. I had a kid who kept saying the F word in class. He was talking to his friends, and it was F this and F that and mother effer and that mofo and blah blah blah. It was F. I was like, are you kidding me right now? So I finally just stood up, went and stood next to him, and I just said, hey, I'm asking you politely if you could please save the F-bombs for after class. Okay? Now, he decided to be a little bit of a smart ass about it, and so I called him on it, and I just said, listen, there's no need for you to be a smart ass, because I'm asking you politely. I came here to ask you politely to not use the F word while you're in class. I don't need you to be a smart ass. I need to just say, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. A. I will not do that. Okay? So, now to his credit, because I called him on it in front of everyone there, to his credit, he stopped using it. I think he let it slip out once the rest of the period, and I was like, okay. But, okay? So it's somewhat, you can somewhat contain them, you can somewhat control it, but again, I'm seeing the same thing. The hardest thing about high school is that you get there and there is no lesson plan. There is no lesson plan whatsoever. There is nothing for me to do except for take roll, and that's it. You could get a freaking circus monkey to do that. As school districts, I do not understand why you have subs come in who do absolutely nothing, who literally take role and then sit there because there is nothing for them to do, because there is no lesson plan. Help me understand that. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't happen in my district. That doesn't happen in my high school. And I'm going to call bull crap on that. Maybe not every classroom. Maybe it's not every teacher, but I guarantee it's happening in your school as well. So I don't understand. So it's hard from the standpoint that there is nothing for you to do. I would half the time just say, are you guys done with the assignment? And they'd be like, yeah, we're done with this. We did this 2 days ago. We completed it. All right, well, what did you guys learn? Who can have a open conversation about what you learned? Guess how many could have a conversation about what they were learning about? None of them. None of them. I would ask them questions. None of them could. That's pretty pathetic. So high school was hard in that sense. That you're going to be there for 6 to 7 hours and you're literally going to do nothing. Oh my gosh. Okay. The best experience I had, which is shocking for me, because going into this year, I told myself I would not sub elementary. And for the reason that I don't feel like I'm very good with kids. I'm not as comfortable around small children as I am teenagers. Get me around teenagers, I'm totally good. Like, I'm good with that. I'm comfortable. Great. Little kids, they scare the hell out of me. It's probably why my wife and I were such a good match, because she was great with our kids when they were super young, but once they got to be teenagers, she's like, can I hand this off to you now because they're teenagers? And I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do that. So, I don't know. I think we were a good match in some ways because of that. But elementary school was by far the best experience I had as a substitute teacher this year. And I'll say it was the most challenging as well. Now, you would think I would say the most challenging was middle school or junior high, and that was just the worst experience, but not the most challenging experience. In elementary, you get to experience a little bit of what you experience in what I experienced in the middle school, junior high, and high school, just with younger people, younger students. I even did pre-K, y'all. And let me just tell you, I fell in love with pre-K. These little 4 to 5 year olds were just freaking amazing. They just changed my life. I mean, it was so much fun to be there with those little kids and to teach them things. And it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. All right. Now, it does have its challenges. Elementary school does have its challenges. And a lot of it, I feel like it's kind of classroom management, but I would just say culture. It's the culture of the classroom. And I don't think that teachers are taking full advantage of making sure that they create great culture in their classroom. So let me tell you a little bit about one of the experiences that I had towards the end of the school year. I believe, I want to say, I think it was first grade. It was first grade. And it's a local school here near my house. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the school. The school has an amazing reputation for good. we had a brand new elementary school built even closer than the one I'm talking about. Um, and the parents just lost their freaking minds that their kids were not going to be able to go to the same elementary school where they had been attending. And it wasn't just, oh, we want our kids to go there. It was because that school has such a great reputation of being a great school with great leadership, with great teachers, just a great learning environment, that parents were not about the new school. And I'll be honest, there's still parents pretty pissed. And if they could find a way to get their kids to the other school, these parents would take their kids to the other school. So this was first grade. I walk into the main office. Ladies greeted me very, very, very friendly, very professional. They were just great. I just loved them to death. And I sign in as a sub, tell them where I'm going. And as soon as I say I'm in first grade for Miss Blank's class, they look at each other and smile, and they say to me, "Good luck. That's a very special class," right? Which basically translates to, "Good luck. That thing is, you're gonna need all the luck you can get." Okay. They told me that there was a kid in the class by the name of, I don't want to say his name, by the name of, let's make up a name. By the name, what's a good?
Billy.
Oh, that's an '80s name. But give me a 2000s name. I always go. Let's go with Brayson, okay? Because you know that you're a 2000 kid if your name ends with SON or SEN. So let's go with Brayson, okay? All right. So they warned me about Brayson. I'm like, okay. And they're telling me that he has episodes where he is uncontrollable, not to be afraid to call admin, because let me tell you, when you call admin at this school, freaking admin comes a running, okay? They are that supportive. They're not messing around. And they're like, don't make sure that you use the walkie, call admin, they'll help you. This is the teacher that will help you. She's right next door, blah, blah, blah. So I looked at them and I said, with all confidence, I said to them, we will not have any issues today. We will not have any problems today. And the look on their face was like, oh, you're so naive. You're so cute and so naive. I really am cute. Look at me. I am cute. But very naive. And I left. I went to walk towards my classroom, which I met this teacher who was right next door to me, who would be kind of my support if I have any questions. She's the one I could go to get a little bit of help. She gave me the rundown on Brayson. Brayson would have episodes where he throws such a fit. He would throw himself on the ground, kicking and screaming, bullying other kids, being disruptive in class, you name it. And this happens 3 to 4 times a week. Okay? Why that kid is still in school, I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is with that kid, but anyway. So I looked at her and I said, we're not going to have any issues today, I promise you. So I start class and we had morning work. And morning work was, they were working on a worksheet. I think they were writing a poem. And so I gave them the instructions on how to write the poem. Oh, and by the way, the other reason why I love teaching elementary school is because guess what? You get a lesson plan. Oh my gosh, how inventive that is, right? Like, oh, you get a lesson plan, y'all. You just follow the lesson plan. And it has a slide deck that you can use on the big screen. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Just saying. So I gave them the instructions, how to write their poem, things to look for, blah, blah, blah. I sent them to work. Brayson, his desk was right next to my desk. For good reason, I would imagine. So I said, Brayson, come here for a moment. As soon as I said, Brayson, come here, the entire class stopped what they were doing, looked up, and was just locked on to me and Brayson. So I literally had to say, y'all turn around, get to work, get your work done, okay? I had Brayson stand right in front of me, and I took a big piece of paper. Give me that paper right there. I want to show this. I took a big piece of paper, and I went like this, and I put it up here like this so no one could see me speaking to him or could tell what I was saying to him, and I whispered it. This is what I said to Brayson. I said, from the moment I walked into this classroom, I could tell that you are very, very, very smart. And I said, is that true? He had a look on his face like, you could tell he was thinking like, what the hell is this guy doing to me? Like, what is he saying? And I said, from the moment I came in, I saw you and I knew you were very, very smart. Is that true? He looked at me again and he kind of nodded and kind of was like, yeah, I guess that's true. And I said, excellent. Because now that we both know that you are super smart, I said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, what's that? I said, I need you to be my helper today. I need you to make sure that all of these kids here can look to you to be a good example of what we're doing in class. And I'm going to have you be my helper. If you want to be my helper, I will have you pass out all the papers. I will have you collect things. And he was really excited about that. He really wanted to do that. And I said, so do we have a deal today? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, Mr. A. Now, let me tell you what also happened when we got to the math portion of the lesson plan. Now, I suck at math. I really suck at math. I never made it past resource math. I don't even know what that is, but I suck at math. I just don't care. Anyways, but come to find out, I'm doing their math, lesson and going through the lesson plan, and everything's going great. And I asked the question. I was like, I wonder if anybody here knows what 32 plus 32 is. And without, like, there's kids who are like thinking, 30, they're like going 32 plus 32. Some kids are writing it down. Some kids are trying to count with their fingers. I don't know what they're doing. And Brayson says 64. And I was like, is that true? Where's my phone? Where's my calculator? Right? Because that's how dumb I am. Come to find out, it's true. And then I asked him, what's 64 plus 64? He knew the answer to that. What's the answer to that? What's that plus that? And I just kept doubling it, and he kept blurting out the answer. I found out frickin' Brayson is a mathematical genius. And I told him in front of the entire class, I go, that kid right there is a math genius. You should have seen the look on his face when I called him a genius in front of everyone. It was like for the first time in his life, someone acknowledged, someone recognized his brilliance in public. He was a changed person. He, at the end of the school day, I dismissed him, and he had to go to the office. That's where his dismissal spot was, because that's where he got picked up by his parents. And he walked in. I learned this from the administrative staff in the office. They said that he walked in. They asked him, how was your day today, Brayson? And they said that he went on and on and on about what a good example he was, about how he got to help and how he got to pass out the papers and collect assignments, and how he is so, he called himself a math genius, right? He said, yeah, Mr. A said I was a math genius, and he's like, this was the best day ever. Then I walk in, they tell me this, and I go, I told you we would not have a problem. Now, I'm not so naive as to think that if I was there on a daily basis with Brayson, that he wouldn't have an episode, that he wouldn't act out. I'm sure that he would, because I'm sure that it goes much deeper than that. But for that 6 hours that he was with me, he never had an issue. Why? Because I looked at it with a different standpoint. I looked at it from the point of showing him empathy. I looked at it from a point of communicating to connect with him. I connected with him. I made him the example. I made him the helper. I made him the mathematical genius. Do you see? I communicated to connect with him. Not to yell at him, not to tell him to sit down, not to tell him to stop talking, but communicated to make a connection. And because we made a connection, it made all the difference in the world. Guys, this is what it takes. This is what it takes. It takes teachers not giving up. It takes teachers to say, I'm going to be a leader. I'm the leader of my classroom. I am going to lead from the front. I am going to lead with empathy. I am going to communicate with my kids. I am going to communicate with my parents, with administration, with the rest of my team. But I'm going to do it in a way that I make connections with them. Now, every day after that, when I saw him in the halls or anything like that, Mr. A, Mr. A, he'd come up and give me a hug. Give me a high five. I'm just a sub, y'all. I'm not, by any means, am I sitting here puffing my chest, making myself to be this great thing, because I'm not. I was just a sub. I was a sub who gave a crap. I was a sub who was willing to be a leader. I was a sub who was willing to communicate, to connect, and I was a sub who was willing to follow the values of the school. That's it. Many teachers would say, we love Mr. A because he is strict. We love him because he, kids actually listen to you. Oh, and they would also say, oh, it is so refreshing to have a man in the school, because you just bring a different aura, a different perspective, a different thing. It has nothing to do with being a man. It has everything to do with being a leader. That's what it's got to do with. Communicating to connect, living up to the values. That's what it is. And if you can do those three things, you build classroom culture. And when you build classroom culture, well, there you go. Your values become the disinfectant to your culture. Your kids are going to take a cue from you, because you're going to set the standard for your classroom. You're going to set the standard for your team. If you're not in the educational space, they're taking a cue from you. You set the standard as the leader, as the manager. It starts with you. Be a leader. Lead with empathy. It makes all the difference in the world. So let me just say this. Let me just say that I really enjoyed my experience in subbing this year. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I enjoyed all of it. I learned a lot from it. A lot of what I learned, a lot of the things that came about will be in the new book that will be released middle of next year. um, about building classroom culture and building school culture. So it was a great experience. Remember that kids don't want you to be a buddy. They want a leader who believes in them. They want a leader who can see their potential. They want a leader who can recognize them and reward them and celebrate them for their brilliance. Be a leader. Be a leader with empathy. Communicate to connect with your students, with your leaders, with your administration, with the parents. Stop playing the blame game and start leading from the front. Communicate to connect and have a great set of core values that will govern all of your decision making in your classroom. I hope that all of the teachers coming back to school in August will have a fantastic break during the summer. I hope that you come back rejuvenated and ready to go, and let go of managing the chaos and start leading with intention. And I promise you that you will have a different outcome. If you want to know more about my 3 pillars of building a classroom culture, all you got to do is comment below, share, like, subscribe to the channel, because there is much more coming down the pike here. So, like I said, I am working on a book. A lot of what I did for subbing this year was to do research for that book, and so I will be collaborating with some superintendents, collaborating with some counselors, collaborating with teachers, and really sharing some of their best practices on creating school and classroom culture. So you have that to look forward to. It was well worth it. Really enjoyed my time. And remember, at the end of the day, you have to live the life you've always imagined. So go out there and live the life.